Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined by football analyst William Gardner. We're here to talk some Colorado football recruiting today. We are on the eve of the regular signing period, which used to be the Super Bowl for college football recruiting. Now it's kind of an afterthought, William. They've got 13 high school signees on campus early for the spring semester. Things have gotten so accelerated with the recruiting process. The regular signing period is a shell of its former self, I guess I would say.
Yeah, and yet it's still a big deal, and it's more exciting, I think, this year and then moving into next year with each year we sort of see an increase in the quality of our recruits, I think, and this year's no exception. And then what we're seeing for the offers for next year is even more so, I think.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of offers going out, and that's really what, when I talk about the recruiting process being accelerated, it goes back to is you remember the days of guys being offered during their senior season, and then it transitioned to when I started covering Colorado recruiting in 2003. It was, you had the spring evaluation period where some offers went out. You had the summer camps where some offers went out, and then you would keep some offers in your back pocket for guys that excelled their senior season. Now it's to the point where, like, if you haven't offered this kid before the spring evaluation period of their junior year, you're almost too late, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so accelerated now, and it's just going on all the time. And you see these guys, and I don't know. I see it. I think it's tough for the players too. I think a lot of these kids are making commitments really fast because they're concerned about what's going to be there now. They're kid that you wrote an article about who's committed to Auburn is going to Auburn High, and I got the impression that he just jumped on that Auburn offer early because it was there, and now
Mhm.
everything else is opened up, and all of a sudden there's much more options.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is tough on them. They have to grow up quicker, but I think young people are growing up quicker anyways, right? Because of social media and just, I don't know, like the things our kids know and they're teenagers, all three of them, they know way more than I did at that age.
well, I think they're growing up different. I don't know if they're growing up faster. It's hard to say,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
You know, I don't know. It's interesting to me because I'm the guy at my office that I bring in the new kids, when they're in law school, and they're usually around 23 and 24, and it's interesting, that they still have a lot of that sort of kid insecurity, you know, that you get over in your 30s and whatever, and yeah, they have a lot of experience of new things, but you still got the process of growing up as a kid, and you know, I think a lot of kids look a lot more secure than they feel inside.
Sure. That's fair. That's a good point. But a lot of 2026, 2027, even 2028 offers going out, which blows my mind. Again, our kids are teenagers. I'm like interviewing these guys, and I'm like, dang, like I need to like, yeah, I get it now when I have a dad or a mom that's like kind of hawking over the interviewing process and trying to be involved. Like I would kind of probably try to do
Right.
that with our kids too, right?
Right, man. And all the guys that I've coached over the years that have been recruited and such, and you try to give parents advice, and it's always like the first kid versus the second kid. You had that first kid, and you're worried about everything, and it's like there was an ad I saw where the mom's boiling everything, and everything's got to be only touched with tongs, and then with the second kid, she drops the pacifier around. She's like, "Here, gives it to him," You recognize
Yeah,
after the first one they're not as fragile as they look. So they are,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I think I've had parents, most parents go through this one time, and they're worried. They want their kid to have the best opportunity, and why wouldn't they, right? And who do you trust? Everybody says they're your friend, and nobody really is. So I get where the anxiety comes from the parents and from the kids.
Yeah. They're out there, the good people. You just have to get
Yeah,
your BS meter on high alert, I
yeah.
think.
And I get, you know, I don't know, people sometimes like, well, you know, this guy gave a commitment. It's not really a commitment. He's 16, man. Come on, you know, that guy doesn't know what the hell a commitment means. He's 16 years old. Give him a
Yeah.
break, you know.
Yeah. We probably should have not ever put that word into use. It should have been a pledge
Yeah.
or I don't know. There's other words to use other than commitment that have unfairly, I think, kind of criticized some young people for flipping around. And it's like one of those things where if a guy flips from Oregon to Colorado today, William is in that room you see right there doing backflips. But if a kid goes the other way, then like not saying you are doing this, but CU fans are very frustrated, right? It's kind of like how it pertains to you and your fandom.
And I guess it, you know, it's not as important in a sense as it was before the transfer portal because now it's so easy to move somewhere else. But
Yeah.
you know, back in the day when you pretty much, you know, you had to be there and transferring was a big damn deal. And I've often thought over the years, you know, that a lot of guys could have been really great players, but they went to the wrong place, and maybe there wasn't an opportunity, maybe there wasn't good coaching, you know, and who knows? You know, I don't think everybody that's a bust is a bust because they suck. It's because maybe they didn't get in the right situation, you know, and I don't know. It's a tough decision to make when you're that age.
So Colorado had 14 prep signees during the early signing period. That is a big jump up from last year when they had six early prep signees. Now they did continue to add guys late. This is one of the things we've seen under Coach Prime is he likes to have open scholarships to add guys. Brandon Hood, Ben Boozy, Kieran Garcia, uh, Murphy, Yaya Tia. Those guys all signed later last year. But even when you add up all the high school guys they added into the program last year, it was 11. So they were three more than that before they even got to the month of January this year. And I'm told, William, that they're going to sign even more high school guys this coming year. In the whole thing is give us some elite guys. It's not as much recruiting by need at a position, but guys that they fall in love with in terms of their development. And then you use the portal from there to fill in the gaps. It is becoming more of a traditional approach. I think there will always be a little bit more transfer heavy under Coach Prime, which I would fully endorse because I think that this is a new era in college football and you need to embrace that. But you are starting to see the foundation get laid a little bit more.
Well, I mean, you know, I think two things come to mind. First of all, it goes without saying that they're going to sign more high school kids, just seeing how many more offers there are this
Yeah.
January, February than last year. But then, you know, I mean, you just have to go back. I mean, all the idiots crying about how much turnover there was in the program just fully did not understand the roster that Coach Prime inherited, and there was damn near nobody on there that belonged at the Power Four level. You know, and when you are trying to build a team from scratch, you got to go with some older guys, man. You know, and even if they're not the highest level of talent, you know, coming out of high school, even at the highest level of talent, you're still only 17, you know, maybe 18, and you have a disadvantage. So with each passing year, we fill in our ranks a little bit more. You know, the original high school guys get older. You know, we've got more guys returning that from our transfer classes and whatever. And so naturally it goes without saying that you can take more high school guys with each more passing year, but you got to remember though, most of those guys are not going to be ready year one. Hopefully with the level of guys we're taking, they're ready to compete for year two, you know, but so you're going to have to fill, and then, you know, not everybody's going to work out. So you'll still have to fill in holes through the transfer portal, but it just is a natural progression that ultimately you just couldn't take a majority high school guys those first 2 years if you hope to win 9 games. It wouldn't have happened.
So, what's your favorite thing about this 2025 high school signing class for Colorado?
I love the linemen that we have in this class. I don't know. I guess I don't know. It's hard to say. It's actually pretty got a lot of variety. So it's got some fantastic speed athletes. I love what I'm seeing on the lines. Uh, and of course, we got the premier quarterback to lead it all. I guess you know, and I get we haven't seen that in a long damn time in a Colorado recruiting class, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. It seems like there are more college ready players we're
Yes.
highlighting
Yeah.
now than you think back to some of those signing day videos we did back in the day. And like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, can he be a guy in year 2 or 3? And
Yeah.
now like, it's like, no, well, like which of these guys won't be ready? It's kind of like
Right.
flipped a little bit.
Yeah. Because I was kind of looking down the list of them and I was like, who's the most underrated guy in here? And I'm like, almost all of them. Because I mean, I just look, like a Montrezl Walker, man, that guy's gonna be ready from day one, and Quentin Gibson, I mean, that one's been beat to death on the board,
Yeah.
and they're just you go down the list, and it's like, Alexander McPherson probably is the lowest rated guy, and he might be the highest ceiling.
Yeah.
So I think they got a bunch of guys that are just guys. So and not just a guy, but the guy types.
Well, I think we should get into our draft then, because I want to talk about some of these guys. You got me excited talking about Montrezl
Yeah.
Walker and some of these linemen that they're signing.
Yeah.
We're
Well, I
gonna
think
do the same. Go
you know, if
ahead.
we're if we're only going to do four guys each, I think we need to find a way to just go down the list at the end, maybe, and talk about everybody else because there's almost every guy on this list I want to make some comment about.
Okay. You
Excited,
got it.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com.
Heads or tails?
I'll take tails. I always take tails. Heads, you bastards. That's not a real coin flip. It's digital. That means the Chinese control it.
You got the first pick last time, so I'm not apologizing. I'm going to take
Okay.
Juju Lewis.
Wait, how did I know?
Let's talk about Juju. Like, what have we not said about Juju at this point? We've said a lot about him. You've even had the Juju's precision pass burger. You're all in on this covering aspect of Julian Lewis, who the only bad thing I've heard, William, this whole time is that he's young.
Yeah, he's young,
Because he is young.
right. And the nice thing is that, most other given years, if he'd have been brought in last year, he wouldn't have had to play. But, even with Shedeur leaving, he's not thrown in there and go, you gotta carry the whole program, pal. Because as we said in our last podcast, I think, in that room, they got three legit guys who can carry this team pretty well, and even if Ryan Staub starts out the season number one, if he doesn't do well, then either Salter or Juju is a guy that can step in. But you've got Staub who's got experience with Shermer, and that gives Lewis and bringing in Salter gives him time to develop a little bit. So fortunately he's here in the wintertime and getting the conditioning, and we'll get those reps in spring, and that should help him a lot. But yeah, he's young, so everything's in front of him, and I think it's exciting. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a quarterback he really is at this level. We all are very familiar with Shedeur now and what he is good at, and what some of his weaknesses. I wouldn't call them weaknesses, for a guy that's going to be maybe the first pick in the draft, not really weaknesses, but it will be interesting to watch Julian Lewis develop and see where his game goes from this point forward.
Yeah. And yeah, I talked about the fact that the criticism has been that he's been young, but the other side of it is that this is a winner. And I love the quote from our national recruiting analyst where he said that he's basically a point guard of an offense. I could see Julian Lewis having a lot of 300-yard passing games at Colorado, but I could see him in some of those big games where the ground game's working, where he's got 148 yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe a rushing touchdown as well. But it's more of kind of that running this offense to be successful. Like there's an ego there, but a healthy ego, I think,
Yeah,
and it's
and I
focused
think
on winning.
right, and I think he's got his head on his shoulders, and just needs to figure out. He'll have to figure out the speed of this game at this level, but that that will come with time, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's exciting to have him here in spring and see what the three of these guys do with this offense. And it's also interesting to me. It will be interesting to see what Shermer does with this offense with these different quarterbacks in that room instead of Shadur.
All right, your first pick, William.
My first pick is the guy I think is the most likely first round draft pick
Oh, I know
in
who
this.
it is.
That's Chauncey Gooden.
Yeah.
And he's as close to a can't miss offensive lineman as you're going to get. I mean, he even looks like like a Chris Nioli or an Andre Giroud from back in the day. Got that kind of body, and I got that kind of ability, and got the he's got that self confidence and that warrior mentality. And you saw him out there in some of those clips before the bowl game. You see that. Getting him in this strength program early and out with some of these older linemen is going to be great for him. And we brought in a couple of fifth-year guys that I think are really good-looking prospects who can play that guard position. And I think Chauncey Gooden could play this either guard or the center position, and has as good a shot as anybody to be in that starting lineup next year.
Good stuff. I'm going to go Carde. No, actually, I'm going to go London Merritt with my next pick. Sorry. Gonna let my draft board out there. Yeah, IMG seasoning is the tiebreaker there for me with London Merritt. He is one of those guys that if you told me when he's walking down the street, that's a guy that's in the NFL right now, I would not disbelieve you. And he is an early enrollee out of high school. And I'm sure there's some stuff that he's got to work on. Obviously, coming in as an edge guy, even though they have the leg up there coming from IMG, but this is somebody I could see having a pretty big role on the team this coming season. I don't know if he's going to be a starter, but I could see him being a guy that we're talking about being an NFL draft pick the way that we do with Jordan Seaton coming out of his freshman campaign.
Yeah, and I don't think that being a starter at the edge position really doesn't amount to much in the way we run things. Because I think we're going to run 6 guys just like we did last year. Run 6 guys. Last year we ran 7 actually, but I think London Merritt, of all the guys on this group, is most likely to be the first year star because he's just such an advanced prospect in terms of an edge pass rusher and sort of has the size to hold the edge in a run game and what have you. And I think he's a guy that will very quickly figure into the rotation there. And you get him in here coached by no, I can't remember his name, not Hurley, it's George Hilo and Coach Sapp and Coach Lewis, and I think he'll learn some things really quick. And I think he's a guy. He would have been my second pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you going now?
Well, I guess I will take Carde Smith because I think he's a first-rate prospect at tackle, and given that we have question marks at right tackle, he's at least got some potential to step into that spot, and we'll see what he does. I think people just need to do not judge this kid by Jordan Seaton, okay? Because they're not the same guy by any stretch of the imagination. But I think ultimately, if you look on a 10-year time frame, Carde Smith has the same kind of upside as Jordan Seaton. He's just not going to get there as fast. And so I think he could be a guy who could help us at that right tackle spot. He's actually very well coached and very much ahead of the game in terms of his technique. He just needs more size in that upper body from what I can see.
I'm torn between two guys once again with my fifth pick, or third pick, fifth pick overall. I'm actually going to go with Montrez Walker on campus as a linebacker. Uh, would love for him to be like the next Jordan Dizon, Nate Landman that comes in. He's got a lot of love for CU. He's got a lot of love for Andre Hart, his position coach. And it would be in this transfer era, it would be great for him to come in, have a role this year. Even Nate Landman wasn't a full-time starter his first year, but to see him kind of progress into being a mainstay at Colorado at linebacker position that when they have had success defensively, they've had that dude at linebacker.
Yeah.
And when they haven't, they have struggled defensively. So I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I like Montrez Walker in terms of his potential for the future.
Yeah. And he was one of the two guys I was looking at for my next pick. And I think he's also, I think he might be the most ready to surprise in this whole group. You know, in our last podcast, we talked a little bit about Jeremiah Brown being back. And I mentioned that Jeremiah Brown's never going to be the thumper type that Hill Green and Levante Bentley is. This guy is. Montrez Walker, man, he'll put a face mask in your chest and you'll feel it the next day. He's very much that sort of, tackle to tackle inside linebacker type, but can also run and get all over the field, and yet another Georgia kid coming in here. So I'm pretty excited about him as well.
Nice. Where are you going with your next pick? Third pick, sixth pick overall.
I'm gonna probably take a little bit of surprise here. I think I'm gonna take Christian Hudson at defensive line, and I think he's a significant underrated pick. And I think he's a guy that right from the start, especially coming in to get coached by Coach Sapp, is going to surprise a lot of people with his abilities. And he's got a motor, that you heard of a governor on a motor that prevents a motor from going beyond a certain level. Got the other kind of governor that doesn't let his engine come down below 1,000, however many RPMs. But I think he's a guy. He's built well for a defensive tackle, and he just got he kind of reminds me of Sapp in college, to be honest with you, in terms of his frame and size and all that kind of stuff and how he plays the game. So I'm excited to see what he does when he gets in here and starts getting coached by these three guys.
He was committed to UCF when the Buffaloes traveled down there to Orlando. Christian Hudson was in the stands to witness that beatdown of the Golden Knights. I kind of backfired on them a little bit.
I got a feeling that next year we're not going to see that so much. We saw that a lot this year, that they would have their recruiting day on the day they played us. I don't think they're going to put their kids in the stand when Coach Prime's in their stadium from now on.
It didn't seem to work out all that well.
No.
This past season. All right, I've got to go then to somebody you mentioned. Was it last show or this show? I can't remember. Quentin Gibson, slot receiver coming in. And from Texas, he was the Max Preps National Player of the Year. I'm not going to get into his 24/7 sports ranking. That's above my pay grade.
Your fault. You did it.
Yeah, I have no involvement in that whatsoever. But clearly here I have high impressions of him. And size is not going to stand out, but LaJohntay Wester you'd see in straight clothes and go, I can't imagine that's a football player. And then you watch him break in and out of routes and you go, holy crap. And that's kind of how I feel about Quentin Gibson.
Yeah, and he played at the really, I think the highest level of high school football in America, and just kind of made people look stupid, even in the state championship game against arguably the best talent in America. Just repeatedly make guys look dumb, and they talk about his size, but I remember that one play that wound up, somebody posted on Twitter where he planted some guy on his back. I can't remember if he was blocking or if he was the guy who was trying to bump him at the line or whatever. But
it was an Oregon cornerback that was covering him.
Right,
yeah,
right. And clearly for his size, he didn't back down to that guy, and he put him on his ass. So take yourself up to your green floaty duck team and get the hell out of here.
Yeah. All right, number 4 pick for you. Last of our prep high school draft here.
Well, I'm gonna stay at the same position, but honest to God, I can't pick between these two guys. because they're almost identical in every way, even coming from the same part of the country. But I might have to flip a coin between Adrian Wilson and Quinnell Frank Farrakhan. Um, I guess I'll take Adrian Wilson because he's a half-inch taller.
Okay.
And no other reason than that. But they're both, I think, fantastic talents at wide receiver. And I think we bring in three guys. Any one of these three guys could really have an impact on the receiver position this year. And certainly Adrian Wilson, coming out of Texas and has done a lot of the same things that Quentin Gibson did down there, and really a fantastic athlete. So I'm sort of excited about it.
Yeah. Gibson, Wilson, and Farrakhan. I mean, they're a threat to score a touchdown every time they touch the ball, as that whole cliche with football goes, but it's true with those guys.
And off the top of my head, Farrakhan goes to North Shore High School in Houston. I think that's where Andre Giroux came out of. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking.
Okay.
Nice connection there.
Who else do you want to talk about in this class? We've got
we've not. That's everybody.
We've got Antonio Branch Jr. coming in at safety. Oh, the guy that honestly that probably deserved to get drafted here is Alexander McPherson.
Yeah, and he's the most underrated guy in the class, I think. And he's the guy that led IMG in sacks, I think, did near pressures or something, and so he's certainly got that it factor in terms of 6'6", 240. I think he's going to wind up north of 280 and kind of be a JJ Watt type of a player. I don't know if he'll wind up at that level of talent, but he's got that kind of a size and is exciting to watch. So I think he's a guy that can play inside for you on certain downs and certainly play that edge position. And he's exciting to look at. And then
Corbin Lazier and Zane D'Souza, tight ends.
Branch
go ahead.
Branch is an exciting looking kid out of Miami. At 6'2", they got that great safety size and can really run the field. And so he's another one.
He's kind of a tweener at this point, but he's going to grow into his frame. Like right now, like you said, he is a safety. Like they actually put him in the box a lot there in high school. So he's definitely got that mentality. He's got to let just maturity and age settle into that frame a little bit. And then, and I could see him being a special teams guy early on, but when he fills out, he's going to be a player.
Yeah, for sure.
The tight ends, any thoughts there?
It's hard. I don't know a lot about Corbin Lazier, and I think coming out of Tennessee, I think I would look at both of those guys and say that taken in tandem with all the tight end offers that we're seeing, in this particular class, and both of these guys being in that 6'5", 230 and above range, clearly they're looking at filling the ranks of the tight end room with more traditional looking tight ends. Both of these guys fit that for sure. I think Corbin Lazier is probably a more rounded player. D'Souza's listed 6'6", 260. I don't believe that weight. I'm not sure I believe that height either. Haven't seen him in person, but I think he's 6'5", 245, maybe 240, something like that. But Lazier's on campus. I think D'Souza needs to be here. And we'll see what they do. I think it's still too much question mark to know what the hell they're going to do with the tight end position in the new offense to really say what these guys will do or even how they're going to use them. And then I think Jay Gardenhire is an interesting prospect to tackle at 6'8", 350. And I think he's the kind of guy you don't mind taking a chance on when you've got other guys like Cardi Smith and Chauncey Gooden on the offensive line. And I think I'm not sure to get Gardenhire's got the flexibility or the athleticism to play here, but we'll see. We'll get him in there with our strength and conditioning coaches and get him in shape and see how he moves.
Like we mentioned, Colorado is way ahead of things with the 2026 recruiting evaluations out there. I had a few guys written down that have stood out to me. Are there any guys in that class that have impressed you early on that you would put on your wish list? And we're going to do a whole wish list feature on BuffStampede.com, but I'm curious if you'd like to nominate anybody for that list.
Well, there's so many out there. It's hard to know which ones are serious about us, and kind of hard to I haven't had time to go look at film of all of them, but there's an offensive lineman, Zayden Krimkin. I think that's how it goes, but out of Texas, I think, and he's like 6'5", 280, and he plays on a team where his counterpart at right tackle has also got an offer from CU and looks pretty good. And both of those
Mhm.
guys, that kid's name off the top of my head, but both of those guys look pretty good to me. I described Krimkin as a bulldozer with no off switch based on his film, because he just is knocking kids around. And at 6'5", 280, he's clearly got the frame to be well over 300. I think he's pretty exciting. And if I could remember the other kid there, he's another one that both of those offensive tackles would be superb additions to our group. Another guy that kind of caught my eye, and I don't know, how serious he is about us, if anything, but there's a defensive tackle out of Birmingham, Alabama, Bodney Cleveland at 6'3", 305. Who's a 4-star 91 rated guy. And you can see in his film why, because he's just kind of a wrecking crew out there. So that's fun. And then I'd say there's like, how many tight end offers are out there? 10, 15. It's crazy that they're all these
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and so clearly they're looking to rebuild that room, and that's kind of exciting to me. And none of them has been the one that stuck out to me, because there's so many of them probably, but that's exciting, I think.
Yeah, it is so early, even though the process has been accelerated as we described. But it's really when they start lining up those spring visits, those summer visits, when you go, okay, this is where they're invested. But I had a few guys mentioned on my list as well that stood out to me with these 2026 offers. Tate Reynolds, a composite 4-star quarterback from Arizona. He's currently committed to Clemson. But he is getting a lot of attention from Colorado now. He was previously committed to Arizona State. His dad played as a linebacker at Utah in college. Tate Reynolds is also a stud baseball player. You watch his 2024 highlights, and those things are definitely sped up, which kind of annoys me. But when you put it on like a slower speed, that's where you get the real evaluation there. He's got NFL level poise. He really does. He should not have to speed up his highlight tape the way that he did, but he's got good escapability, can throw on the run, makes plays with his legs. Looks like the type of kid that, and it's kind of like little basketball players that have grown up watching Steph Curry. I feel like Tate Reynolds grew up watching Patrick Mahomes. I feel like that was kind of his inspiration as a quarterback. Jermichael Garrett, a pass rusher from that's currently committed to Auburn. He's going to visit Colorado and Oregon in the spring. Quick diagnosing skills. I think he's going to end up being a really good linebacker at the next level. And he told me that he's very high on Colorado. One last guy I'll mention here is North Fort Myers defensive lineman James Johnson. North Fort Myers High School is Coach Prime's alma mater, and Johnson is a top 30 prospect in the 2024 class. Way too many offers to list. He was on campus at Georgia this weekend, visiting Alabama as well. 6'4", 280. That's a guy I feel like Coach Prime, his pride's going to want to get landed here in Boulder. And in fact, I did a story on James Johnson, and Coach Prime quote retweeted that with some eyeballs. So yeah, he's definitely invested into this recruitment.
Yeah. And Bryce Gilmore is that other offensive tackle at Prosper, Texas, the bookend with
Okay.
I looked him up, and he's listed 6'4", 270, and they those two guys are just road graders out there. So that's exciting. The kid you mentioned, the second to last one was the one
Jermichael Garrett.
Yeah, who's currently committed to Auburn, and
Yeah.
maybe that was the last podcast that I was talking about, that they make these kids commit so early, and they're not really sure where they're going. But I wouldn't bet against him being at CU and being another great linebacker for us.
Yeah. Well, again, like we started the show, the regular signing period looks a little different now. But William, it was fun talking about a lot of these talented guys that are coming into the program. Always appreciate you for taking the time out, and I can't wait to get down to the Hungry Toad for our visit with them. 2-4 2543 Broadway in Boulder. The Hungry Toad bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. Anxious to get there and relax and put up my feet and talk some CU football in person with you, William.
Yeah, I think it was that Tuesday, the 11th. And what I think
It is a Tuesday.
yeah,
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep. Looking at my
Tuesday,
calendar now.
anybody wants to come out there and join us, we're happy to have people show up.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be during the day. We're going to find another day to do more of a meetup, right?
Yeah.
So when is that going to be? Is that going to be in February? We're working off your schedule here.
I think we're going to talk about the following week, but we'll have to figure something out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, appreciate you, William, and appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.